We are live on Facebook Land and simulcasting on Mixler. It takes a while for people to pop up on Facebook, so Jay, we just talk a second about what we've been up to since our last broadcast. We missed last week.
Unfortunately.
I had a little bit of foot pain last week. Did something to my foot and just was not in a good vibe to come on live and do this broadcast.
Not feeling it doesn't go to try to give out a message when you don't feel it yourself. So
right. Well, the theme for last week is one that Jay came up with. It's a topic that's important to him, and he wanted to talk about it.
It's not to try to belittle anybody, but I just have an issue with what I call coddling. In other words, letting every child win.
And this comes from your experience as a coach
yes.
and as a parent.
Yes.
And as a player.
And as a player, yeah. We want to make sure everybody gets a trophy, or if you go to a party, everybody gets a gift, even though it's not your day. I just feel like we're kind of setting them up for not success. That's just, my personal belief that sometimes you have to know that it's someone else's turn, but when you get your turn, do what you got, and you'll get rewarded for that. So that's how I come up with competition. If you wanted to start in the starting five, you put that extra time in to start the starting five. Not this, well, every child has to play 3 minutes. Whatever. So.
Well, because you and I kind of see this a little bit differently, and as from even the times when you coached and the times our son played when you weren't the coach, there were times he would not have played if there hadn't been that everybody gets a chance to start or everybody has to play an inning, because small town America, you play according to what your last name is. So, there's that aspect of it. How do you, if you don't have rules that say every kid gets to play, can you speak from personal experience where you didn't make teams because of who you were?
Well, I can speak to that. That experience, not being able to enjoy my passion of playing ball because I wasn't who they wanted, not because of my skill set. Yeah, and that was a little disappointing. But then, you look at that time, I was rewarded because I got a chance to take my skills, got to play with my dad. And had I made the high school team, or was allowed to make the high school team, I wouldn't have got that experience. You weren't allowed to play during the year if you were on a high school team to play semi-pro ball, which I got to play. So I kind of got a mixed feeling on I didn't get to play, and it didn't have anything to do with my skill. But then I turned around and did get to play. But coaching-wise, I tried, even though we had that rule, I didn't want a child to think, okay, well, coach is only going to put me in for 3 innings, and that's my three at bats or whatever, 3 outs, and that's going to happen at the end of the game. I tried to make sure I mixed up and not start the same kids. And some coaches don't see it that way. They're going to, unfortunately, put in there.
Right. So you started players who didn't earn a starting position. You started players because you needed to play them throughout the game, and so you let them start a game.
Yeah. Now, with that being said, of course, when I went to practices, I made sure that every child that was on my team gave it what they need to do in practice. And that was why I told them, if you want to get more playing time, here's where you earn it. Don't worry about the rule where you're going to go in for 3 outs or whatever, or 1 at bat. Come to practice and show the coach that you should be on the field for the whole game, no matter what the rule is.
So when you and I were growing up, too, youth sports was not the huge industry that it is now.
No.
We had Little League.
Mm-hmm.
We had Little League that was mostly for boys, but there wasn't year-round ball where I'm from. Hi, Tanya. Yes. Yeah. Dads do have to coach. I will say, Tanya, that Jay was one father I saw, unfortunately for Michael, who he didn't want to seem like he was playing favoritism. And I know a lot of times he didn't play Michael because he didn't want to seem like he was doing what other people were doing.
Yeah. I don't want to belittle the volunteers who come out to coach kids, because you have 3 or 4 kids who parents, whether it's mom or dad, that drop them off and don't care what the kid is doing, so they're not volunteering. So I don't want to, slam the guys who are volunteering to help. But then some of them do get caught up in my child's going to be the star because I'm the coach. And sometimes that they don't set that kid up for success because you're putting them in a situation that maybe they shouldn't be in.
So this is a spiritual program. This is a program with a spiritual message.
Right.
And so you and I kind of see I hate the word coddling because honestly, I feel like it comes from an attack on women. Tanya Tucci Clark says exactly. I feel like it began as an attack on women who paid too much attention to their sons.
Mama's boy.
You're coddling your son. You're making your son weak. So the word, it's a C word. It's one of those C words that I don't like, that I feel like it's an attack on moms and on women. But this is a show with spiritual messages. So what I'm wondering, because you and I do see that a little bit different, because I like that there are so many opportunities, even for non-athletic children, to be involved in sports and to feel good about themselves. There is a line. I'll agree with that. But what is the spiritual message? What harm do you think spiritually, or, because spiritual means how you grow emotionally, mentally, how you feel about yourself, how you feel about your place in the world. How do you think that this coddling, there's lots of words for what this kind of thing is. You're talking about helicopter parenting, talking about hovering, you're talking about overprotecting. What are some other words? I had a whole list of words.
Yeah, like you said, stunting,
sheltering.
Yeah.
So what does this do spiritually, and why are we concerned about this kind of thing?
Well, I guess my take from it is when you don't allow a child, I don't want to say a child to fail, but at least give an effort that they know if they give it their all, they're going to get rewarded for that. That kind of follows them through life. And, you and I were talking about me not making the team. When I looked at my dad and said, well, I want to move so I can play ball, he said, why are you going to move just to play ball? What else is wrong there? And this is the only thing that you think you want to move. Are you going to do that every time you come up against a situation? You're just going to quit and go somewhere else?
Okay. That was a good lesson that your dad taught you.
And so I just looked at him and said, but you're successful over here, you're successful over here, you're getting to do this. Just moving to play baseball, I don't care how much you love it. What's the guarantee that when you move, you're going to get to play where you go? So here's one thing that, those kind of behaviors do to our kids. Mm-hmm. And we know this from experience. And what you're doing is you're just delaying them growing into adults, maturing emotionally and mentally. And the only way to become an adult emotionally and mentally and spiritually is if you are confident in making your own decisions, and if you understand that you are not the center of the universe, right? And that people aren't put on the earth to do your bidding, right? We're all individuals with free will. And so when you do so much for your kids, and when you, that's one thing that the coddling, the hovering, the overprotecting, the sheltering can lead to, is an extended period of childhood for your child or your young adult, emotionally and mentally. Now they're going to physically grow, unless they don't have good nutrition.
they're going to physically grow into an adult, and they're going to have the urges of an adult, and they're going to reach 18, so they're going to have the freedom of an adult. But they're not going to have the mental and emotional and spiritual capacity to take on those responsibilities.
Right. And you say that, you have a small town, the kids that, I don't want to say sheltered, but sheltered a lot of their life, and then they go off college. And then you hear about them not being able to cope because now no one's hovering over them, and they're allowed to make their own decisions. And unfortunately, up to that point, they didn't have to do that, and they're left doing some things that hope they don't do, but they do. Yeah, Thirsty Thursdays. So, and I can't.
Not every kid.
Yeah,
not every kid.
And you can't say that. You're right, because there are some kids that I know who were my friends, spoiled brats coming through. But then they got to college, and they blossomed. They opened up and figured out that, hey, I can't succeed without mom telling me that I need to be to bed at 9 o'clock. I mean, that's great, but you want to hope that you're able to guide them, let them be a little bit independent as they're growing up.
And this isn't just sports. Jay's area of expertise and what he sees and what he's seeing is from sports. I've worked with kids in different settings, and we both have our own experience in all areas, because when we were kids growing up, I was out the door as soon as I ate breakfast, and I didn't have to be home until 7:30 in the evening. I came home for lunch. Both of my parents worked. My stepmother came home and put lunch on the table, or she put it in the fridge all prepared for us. We came home, we ate lunch, we were back out the door. As long as we were home by dinner, there wasn't any problem. We didn't have cell phones. We ran all over the neighborhood. We knew where we could go, where we couldn't go. And we would go in other people's neighborhoods and pick apples off their trees or chestnuts or, hey, friend's house, can I have a drink of water?
Right.
And our parents didn't worry about us. But when my generation started having kids, we had a real shift happen because, West 2nd Street, Tanya, you're familiar with West 2nd Street in Weston. I would spend the summers with my grandparents on West 2nd Street. You know this. And they would send me across the street to John Carr's little grocery store. This is across like a state highway that was going outside of town. And if we had still been living there when my kids were born, they wouldn't have gone across that street without an adult. It would have happened. I did it. I walked down the street. I walked to town. I was sent with a note to pick up whatever for my grandmother. I would have done it. I don't know what the shift was, but there was a shift and there was a fear. And you didn't let your kids have that freedom. If my kids weren't home when they was to be after school, it was a problem for me. My kids needed to check in. They didn't go off wandering. They didn't go off and play with their friends until they checked in. So I don't know. I can't tell you what it was. I can't tell you. I can't tell you what happened between my childhood and my children's childhood. Some fear arose that we couldn't let our children too much out of our sight.
And I could be right or wrong. I think
Tanya says we had a great time without fear. It changed dramatically. I think so too.
I don't want to say ignorance is bliss, but when we were coming up, not knowing.
See, I don't think that's it. I think that you lived in communities where your neighbors knew you and they watched out for you.
Right.
And Tanya's family had a shop down the street, and she knew my grandfather. Like we knew each other, right? But I don't feel like that's what goes on. And we even know from the house we had in Weston, like people didn't want your kids in their yard.
Yeah.
You didn't run through people's yards anymore. You didn't go to church with your neighbors. You didn't, and it's not just Weston, it's other places we live too. But I don't know, it's different. This is different.
And it's a different feel, a different atmosphere. I mean, I was the same as you were. I got up in the morning and I could go. And it wasn't just my neighborhood. I'd jump on my bike. I'd ride to my grandmother's. We'd ride to, probably 5 or 6 miles away to play basketball. My parents didn't worry.
Mm-hmm.
And now, you and I, Mike, have a friend across.
Well, he didn't go to town either during the day.
Right.
I went to Weston during the day, and we would go to the Colonial Restaurant and get French fries and hot dogs, or we would go somewhere else and eat food. Michael did not run around town.
And then we freaked out one time. They tell us, we walked the back way through the woods, like, where?
Oh, Michael said?
Yeah, Michael and Paul.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know what it was, but definitely my generation, Generation X, we definitely had to put some restrictions and lessen the freedom of our kids.
Do you think some of that may be too, Generation X didn't do like their parents. A lot of them didn't stay in the neighborhood where they grew up. They moved to other places, so there was that familiarity or lack of familiarity, I think, may have caused that. Because you were growing up in places you didn't know about. So are you going to trust your child to just go out and run around in a place you aren't familiar with?
Sure. And I think we also grew up in the age of television with the movies about the kids who had been kidnapped just off the street and the TV shows and stuff about missing people. So, that's weird. Yeah, I think 24-hour-a-day news and a lot of scary news stories.
You and I were talking about if we were in one of the big cities, New York, where your child would jump on the subway to go to school or whatever, how would we be able to handle that?
Yeah, I don't know. Because they do that.
Do it. Yeah.
Tanya says people stopped caring and became self-absorbed. Morals were abandoned with drugs and loss of income. Children knew they would be in trouble at school and at home. Yeah. If you got in trouble at school, you were in trouble at home. And I know from experience now, if your kid gets in trouble at school, we defend them.
Yeah.
We defend them. I've done that. There's no way that I mean, that's a whole other story, right?
Familiarity of your neighborhood. And I knew if I did something wrong with Mr. Bob's yard, he was going to give me what for, and then I was going to get it when I got home. Mm-hmm. So you knew what your boundaries were. And I guess that's, not changing that, but is sports not allowing kids to do things late too? I mean, that's just the whole.
Well, there's a good point there in that we didn't have the structure.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes in the summer we had a little bit of a summer camp, a little recreation, parks and recreation camp that we went to. They fed us lunch. We played games all day. It was no big deal. We could come and go as we wanted. But you're right. We didn't have the structure because sports didn't go all the time. And now you've got kids in 2 sports and band and scouts and 4-H and church groups. And
we actually had some downtime where we got done with baseball, and I actually had summer where I didn't have to do anything until I got back to school, knowing that basketball was coming up.
Well, we didn't even have youth basketball when I was a kid in my town, Philippi. Soccer came along as I was growing up, and we had a soccer season. But and then I think there was pony football. Is it pony football or is that baseball?
That's baseball. Football was Pop Warner.
Pop Warner football, yeah. But of course, I wasn't involved in that as a girl. But it wasn't. You didn't have year-round baseball. We didn't have tennis. We didn't have all those things. And so when my generation came along, we sort of hung on to our kids. I'm like the worst example of that, because when my kids were little, I worked every place they were during the day. I worked at their daycares. I worked at their elementary school. I ran a daycare. I ran a youth center where they would come. So they couldn't get away from me if they tried. And so I am a really bad example as one of those parents who was always there. I was the volunteer. I helped run the anything that I could and be involved in any way that I could. And my kids didn't get a break from me because I was also a stay-at-home mom. So they didn't get a break from me at all. They had absolutely no freedom from me. And that's kind of bad. And then you go into the sports thing that you're talking about, where everybody gets to play, everybody gets a trophy. You don't really have to earn a spot on the field because you know you're going to get a play. So there's no real motivation to be better or get better unless you have natural talent and you can see yourself getting a lot better and going far. If you're not much of an athlete, there's really no motivation for you to say, okay, I'm going to do some extra practice so I get on the field.
And I do like the fact that they're saying that each child should play in a game. But
up to a certain age.
Yeah, what I would like for them to do, instead of saying they need to play, I think it should be every child should start. Every child should have the opportunity to start a game. Because if you're put into a situation where you know you're going to be there and be important, instead of at the end of the game where no matter what the score is, well, I'm going to get in, but we're down, would give them a little bit more sense of responsibility and wanting to be there, I think. But if I have a child who's sitting on the bench and every game they're sitting on the bench and we're going to have Michael, we're going to put him in for bunt or we're going to put him in for his 3 outs, what was a ball player? But unfortunately, they didn't see that. I guess when I was coaching, I tried to make sure that a child wasn't just sitting to wait for their 3 outs or whatever, so that they could feel that they were involved with.
So what age do you think that this everybody gets to play, or everybody starts a game, or everybody gets so much time in the game? Right now, it kind of stops when they make a school team.
Mm-hmm.
So is that okay? Or is it like 12? Is it,
Yeah, I think.
Because you're not guaranteed a spot on a school team. You're not guaranteed time to play on.
Well, up until when you were talking about in religion, how about teenage years, you start wanting to try to train them to now start thinking for themselves and become an adult. Yeah, I think that, not middle school, because middle school still has 6th graders. In my junior high used to be 7th and 8th grade. That was when there was no guarantee you were going to make the team. And there was no, everybody got a trophy. So you went out for a team, you had to bring it or you were, not.
Because I feel like there should be a certain amount of time in youth sports where you're having fun and you're exercising.
Yes.
You're not in front of your phone. You're not in front of a video game.
Right.
You're outside in the fresh air. You're exercising. You're spending time with friends, and it's fun, but you're learning fundamentals. And so this isn't about NBA championships, right?
Right. No, not even close. And you're right. Those are the developmental years for more reasons than one, not even just sports, but developing them, getting them ready to get into a part of their life where it's going to start to become very competitive. No matter, we have the honor society and all these other little accolades that they don't give away. You earn that. And so
I'm just wondering, because again, this is a spiritual program.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to lift our spiritual awareness and our spiritual health. And where can we meet in the middle between the coddling and the independence and the competitiveness? And that's even in the neighborhoods. How do we give our kids free will and freedom to make decisions and to decide, am I going to put in the hard work here? How do you give them their free will, but also inspire them and allow them to be kids and have fun? Because listen, we don't want 8-year-olds sitting on the bench and not getting any game.
Right. And again, my only issue with everybody having playing time is what the coaches utilize that for. And they're going to save that child who, again, I feel like if they got into the middle of the game or in the beginning of the game, it would feel better than knowing they're going to be regulated to the bench, so the coach has to put them in.
I think a kid knows. I'm starting because it's my turn to start, not because I earned it. I mean, so there's just like, what is the happy medium? How do we make sure that we're raising emotionally and mentally mature kids while also motivating their spirit and their passion and letting them be curious about different sports and try different things and feel what success feels like? You know, is there a medium in that, or are we just screwing our kids no matter what we do? Because I want to bring this up. Jay and I we were supposed to do this topic last week, and then I had the little foot injury, and Jay and I went to a youth basketball game on Sunday, and I said the universe did not want us to talk about this last week. The universe wanted us to wait this week because we went to a youth basketball game, 11 and 12-year-olds, a championship game. Two really good teams for, my God, I wasn't playing that well at 11 and 12. But, one team's fans and parents and sisters and siblings were sitting going, yay, nice shot, way to go. The other team's parents were standing up, screaming, angry, aggressive. One father was actually on the floor in front of the bleachers, giving signals and making motions, do this, and the team had a coach, a confident coach, a good coach. And I mean, this was mothers and fathers, one mother, a bunch of fathers were, and because the other side was kind of quiet and like cheering on everybody, this group of parents, it actually unnerved me. And my son was there and it unnerved him too. And the 11 and 12-year-olds and the fathers were very, very aggressive and very loud and very angry and very, do this, do that. I told you to do this. You just need to sit down if you can't do that. Take you out of the game. I mean, it wasn't pretty. It was ugly. And my son says out loud, says out loud what he thinks, and he says, they're just kids. It's just a game. And the father turns around and says, this isn't just a game. This is not fun. It might be fun for you, but this is competition. This is not fun for us. And we just were like, let it go, buddy. Let it go. And, the more I think about that, the more I think, God, can you imagine being 11 or 12 and your parents are expecting you to be competitive and not have fun? And, I also think, I don't know if these parents think that this is their way to go to college, or because we never thought that. Michael played all kinds of sports. He played football. We always knew he was going to go to college and that he didn't have to rely on academic scholarships were nice. And the problem with this is that the coddling aspect, the mother hovering, that whole visual, you're making your son weak. You're making your child weak doing that. Get away from your kid. But what these fathers were doing, even though most of us, I think, in the crowd were a little uncomfortable, the officials were laughing at these guys and joking around with them. And it's like, you're making your kids tough. You're making them men. You're turning them into adults. We're getting them ready for life. And the thing is that's not any better than the other. In fact, both of them are, I don't want to say abusive, but I think what the fathers were doing was embarrassing to their kids. I think it was humiliating. But then mom running out on the football field when Junior gets hurt, mom running out on the field, oh, my baby. That's humiliating too. So, and the thing is, one thing I don't want to do, and why I hate words like coddling and stuff like that, is because one thing I don't want to do is shame parents.
Right.
Because we're doing the best we can. And so we need to find a word that helps us. we need to figure out what is the goal? What is the goal with youth sports? What is the goal with allowing our children some freedom to go play outside and to explore their neighborhoods and to get away from mom and dad? What is the goal? So what, because when you tell a parent you're coddling, you're hovering, it just puts them on the defensive,
Right.
and they don't want to hear you. They just want to be right. And they don't see it. They don't see that, I know, because I didn't see it. So what can we call this when we are so attached to the outcome of what our children are doing, and so attached to their safety, and so attached to their future, that we keep them, because those poor kids, those kids end up winning. And it was a very close game. It was a very, very good game. And those kids ended up winning. And, they were excited. But you could tell the win was over very quickly, because as soon as they went out and met their fathers, the fathers were telling them what they did wrong.
Yeah.
The fathers were coaching them. The game wasn't over. The win was gone. It's like it didn't happen because the fathers were still coaching.
Yeah, actually, one of the kids was crying because the way his dad was talking to him. So, and he won. He won the championship.
So there's the two ends of that. And what's the middle?
Well,
What's the middle, and then what's the goal?
The
goal is we want to raise kids who can think for themselves, who can make decisions with confidence, who can trust themselves, and who can who don't think that they're the center of the earth, who can live each day without constant praise and constant attention.
And here's my thing with that.
And don't say it.
It's not so much the kids.
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
We need a word for it that's not coddling, that's not abuse, that's not angry father, that's not hovering, because we get defensive with those words. What do we call this? Because it needs to reflect what the goal is.
Right.
The goal is we want our kids to be able to use their free will.
How are we going to redefine their childhood so that they can?
Well, what are we doing? What are we doing when we're the angry father or we're the hovering mother? What are we doing to our kids? We are stunting their free will.
Right.
We are stunting their free will. That's what we're doing. So the object is we want kids to be free.
Mm-hmm.
We want them to be free to be adults. And we don't want to extend their childhood until they're 24 or 30.
Right.
Or some are even older than that, and are not emotionally or mentally mature enough to be on their own and do what they need to do. And, my professor at school said, take care of the problem and suffer a little now, or take care of the problem later and suffer a lot. So we can raise our kids and make the tough decisions and bite our tongues and stay in that seat and keep our mouths quiet at games and give them a little bit of freedom, or we can have 35-year-olds still living at home, still calling you going, I don't know how to change. How do I get the oil changed to my car? Will you go with me to the doctor? Will you do, because they're not confident in making their own decisions.
Oh, man. I just feel like we need to realize what the situation is and take the situation for what it's worth or what it is. More with our kids. I got lucky growing up. I got my uncles to show me how to do a little bit of mechanic work. Can't do it now. But they showed me, so I felt like, I knew something that some of my friends didn't know, but I also was allowed to be a kid, which is different now. You're right. I think the whole world,
but we're not going to go backwards.
No, we can't go back.
We're not going to go back to the days of when you were a kid, because people don't live like that. And the future world isn't looking for people like us. The future world is looking for our children to be grown-ups and their children to be grown-ups that are able to multitask and work on different things and have high energy and know this stuff. So we're not going to go backwards. It's never going to be like it was when we were growing up. It's never going to be like it was in the 50s. It's never going to be like it was when America was great. We're not going back there. We're not going back there. So
how do
we have to behave now for the future that we want. So, this is about healing our spirits. This is about, and healing, our whole show is about choosing love. And it's about choosing love over fear. So how do we conquer the fear as parents and let our children grow up with an amount of self-responsibility and free will? How do we conquer that fear we have that they're going to be kidnapped, that they're going to get hit by a car, that they're going to get in trouble? I mean, our son is a brown-skinned kid. We had the fears that he was going to get in trouble with the police because good kid, very, very good kid. I'm not just saying that because he's mine. But one reason he didn't go downtown with his friends and walk around town and run around town is because he was a brown-skinned kid, and you just don't do it.
And you said we need to continue to make sure that we're educating our kids on certain dangers. But when we can allow them to just be kids and go out back and play, do that. But I mean, there's no answer from me on how we're going to be able to heal. I can't even fathom that right now because it's such an overwhelming shift that we've seen in the last 20 years. That parents, luckily our kids were able to get out and they're almost adults now, and you can say that you did certain things, but you also did give them some freedom to do some things. So you weren't overly protected. I mean, is there certain? I don't know. Dr. G, I don't have that answer right now. Just one of the things I wanted to talk about was what I think we shouldn't do so much of, but everyone has to.
Well, I read a news story last week when you brought this subject up that was talking about how kids who are going to like Harvard, their parents are calling them to get up in the morning. I mean, and parents defended that. Okay, yeah, because if you got them up in high school, they're not going to just start getting themselves up because they're at Harvard or WVU. And we woke our son up for school, but we weren't nice about it. I think that's why he's able to get himself up now, is because we stood at the bottom of the stairs and yelled, or the cat came and got on his face and did the smushing. And and we stood at the door going, "We're leaving in 2 minutes."
Yeah.
But yeah, we could have done more. We could have actually left in 2 minutes when he wasn't ready, right? He would have, because he's never on time. He takes longer than me to get ready because we never left him like we should have, like we threatened to. But I kind of laughed at it, but then I realized that there are some areas that we did not set him up for success. So, I don't know, it's something to think about. I don't have any answers to it. I think there's got to be a happy medium in there somewhere. I think youth sports is a wonderful thing for children who are not natural athletes, to let them spend time with their friends, to give them exercise, to get them away from the video games and the phones, and to learn new interests.
I mean, I'm not prolonging that statement, but here's my take, and you're talking about youth sports. When they're just playing the recreational sports, we want them to enjoy the game and learn it. If you want them to be competitive, put them on an all-star team, where they go and try out, and everybody, if you make the team, you make the team, and you travel. I'm not saying those coaches need to be harder on them, but let them enjoy playing the game wreck. And if you want them to be ultra, next LeBron James, then let them go try out for traveling team. And then you expect them to.
But there aren't tryouts for All-Stars. They're picked off from the teams. The coaches vote on who goes. You don't try out.
Yeah.
It's who can afford to travel and who do you want off of each team. So it's, if they tried out, that would be great. Maybe it's changed since Michael was in baseball, but I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to wrap that up because there just isn't an answer to it. But it is something to think about. It's something for parents to think about, that you are raising people who will be adults one day, and you want them to be emotionally and mentally mature at the same rate as their body, so that they're able to handle being an adult when they go out the door to college or to move across country or to join the military.
That's what got me. The military bucked me out of my shell because I'm a mama boy. I'm a serious mama boy and aunt's boy and uncle's boy. I was called to a certain extent in the military.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see the military is toughing you up mentally because that's what they do. They break you down mentally. And I'm not sure if that helps everybody emotionally.
No.
So, but yeah, there definitely is a midway between making your kid weak and making him strong, which means he doesn't have any feelings, he doesn't have any passion, he doesn't enjoy what he does, right? So, would you like a Power of Love card this week, Jay?
Yes,
I think Tanya maybe left us because we just went on and on. Tanya, thank you for joining us if you're still listening. All right, Jay. Your card is commitment. Commitment. You dedicate yourself to your beliefs wholeheartedly, knowing that love is the essence of your very being. Wow. That's nice. That's lovely. That's lovely, Jay. And that's our mission here, is to get us to come from a place of love and not a place of fear. Commit to coming from a place of love. I'm going to draw one from me. Respect. I'm not singing it. I knew you would. Okay. You value everyone's unique perspective on the path of love. Because there are many paths up the mountain. The point is to get up there, get to the top.
Everyone starts with the first step, right?
Yep. Okay, now I'm just going to do a general one for anybody who happens to join us later. And responsibility for everybody out there. It says, you are aware of the power of your thoughts and the amount of love you express. So, take responsibility for your choice between love and fear. Be responsible for it, okay? And come and that's what we parents do. We love our kids. We come from a place of love. We come from a place of wanting the best for them and wanting them to have better lives than what we've had. And sometimes fear comes in. And when you're acting from fear, when you're making decisions about your kids out of fear, then you're not acting out of love, because you cannot be in fear and in love at the same time. They're two different awarenesses. They're two different consciousnesses that we possess. A love consciousness and a fear consciousness, and you can't be thinking from both of them at once. You can only be thinking from one. So try your best to come from a place of love, not from fear. Now, there's a difference between fear and caution, fear and legitimate concerns about something, right? But, when you're overwhelmed with fear and you don't let your kids play outside because there may be someone in the neighborhood that's not a good person, you don't know, and that's irrational fear. And that's what we're trying to get you to stay away from, because our kids need to be independent when they grow up. They need to be independent from us. They need to have free will. They need to be confident in making decisions. And they need to know that they're not the center of the universe. Yeah, that's a big lesson to learn. So, all right, guys. Thanks for joining in, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.